She thought she was being rescued, but inside that small hut, she discovered something so disturbing, it would haunt her forever. Rain poured relentlessly as Emily's small hatchback sputtered to a stop on the deserted countryside road. She gripped the steering wheel, her heart pounding, not from fear yet, but from the eerie quiet outside, broken only by the storm's howl. She had been driving back from visiting her grandmother, miles away from any town, when the car simply died. Flicking on her hazard lights, she glanced at her phone. No signal. The wind shook the car, making the shadows of twisted trees dance like ghosts across the windshield. That's when she saw a dim flicker of light deeper into the woods. At first, she thought it was a passing car's headlights, but it didn't move. Squinting, she realized it was a lantern. A tall, weathered man in a tattered coat emerged from the darkness, his face hidden under a wide-brimmed hat. He moved slowly, deliberately, as if measuring every step. "Car trouble?" he asked, his voice deep and strangely calm. Emily hesitated, but something in his tone felt safe. He pointed toward the trees. "There's a hut nearby. Warmer than standing out here. I can help you fix the car after the rain." She looked back at the lonely road, then at him. Her instincts whispered to stay put, but the cold seeped through her soaked jacket. She followed, her shoes squelching in the mud as the forest swallowed them. The path was narrow, overgrown, and far darker than she expected. The lantern's glow lit the man's hands but never his eyes. Finally, through the curtain of rain, a small wooden hut appeared, light spilling faintly through the cracks in the shutters. The man gestured toward the door with a half-smile. "Inside. You'll be safe here." But as Emily stepped inside, her breath caught in her throat. What she saw didn't feel safe at all. Rain started pouring harder as Emily followed the man toward the small wooden hut. Her car was stranded miles from town, engine dead, and there was no signal on her phone. The man, tall and silent, had appeared from the thick woods, offering help with a faint smile. His clothes were worn, his hands calloused, but his eyes were strangely unreadable. The hut came into view, a weathered structure leaning slightly to one side, with a single dim light glowing through the cracks of its boarded window. Emily hesitated, her instincts whispering something wasn't right. But the cold was biting, and the man gestured toward the door. "Just until the rain stops," he said in a low, calm voice. Inside, the air was warm but heavy, carrying a faint metallic smell she couldn't place. Shadows flickered across the wooden walls from an oil lamp on a small table. The furniture looked handmade, rough, uneven, but sturdy. The man handed her a dry blanket and a steaming cup of tea. She thanked him, though her eyes kept darting around the cramped room. There were no family photos, no sign of anyone else living here. Just shelves filled with old tools, glass jars with unrecognizable contents, and something under a large tarp in the corner. It had a strange shape, too big for furniture, too irregular to be boxes. Emily tried to ignore it, sipping her tea to calm her nerves, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the man's gaze lingered on her longer than it should. The sound of rain against the roof was almost hypnotic, but every creak of the old wood made her grip the cup tighter. She was safe from the storm, at least for now. But why did this safe place feel like a trap waiting to close? Emily hesitated for a moment at the hut's doorway, the warm glow of a dim lantern spilling out into the cold night. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of wood smoke, mixed with something unfamiliar, almost metallic. The old man, his wrinkled hands trembling slightly, motioned for her to sit on a small wooden chair. "You must be cold," he said, his voice deep and oddly gentle. A kettle whistled softly on the stove, and he poured her a cup of tea. She took it, grateful, though a faint unease prickled at the back of her mind. As she sipped, her eyes wandered around the small space, bare shelves lined with jars of herbs, a table scattered with old photographs, and in the corner, a large, locked wooden chest. Emily's gaze lingered on it, sensing that it didn't quite fit with the rest of the room. The old man noticed and quickly shifted the conversation, asking about her family and why she was traveling alone. His questions felt too pointed, as if he was gathering more than just friendly small talk. Outside, the wind howled, making the thin walls creak, and she realized just how far they were from the main road. She thanked him for the tea, but as she placed the cup down, her hand brushed against the table, and she saw deep scratch marks on the wood, like something had clawed at it. The old man's eyes followed hers, and for the first time, his warm expression faltered, revealing something darker beneath. The firelight flickered across his face, making his shadow loom long and twisted on the wall. Emily's heart began to race, and she suddenly felt that leaving might not be as simple as she thought. The inside of the hut was nothing like Emma expected. It wasn't just messy, it felt wrong. The air was heavy and stale, carrying a strange metallic smell that made her stomach twist. The dim light from a single flickering bulb revealed shelves crammed with jars filled with murky liquids. On the walls, there were photographs of people, some old, some recent, all marked with red circles over their faces. In the center of the room sat a wooden table, and on it lay tools that looked far too sharp and stained for comfort. Emma's pulse quickened. Her first instinct was to back away, but her legs felt frozen. She could hear the man behind her closing the door slowly, the creak echoing in the cramped space. "Sit down," he said softly, but there was something in his tone that made it sound more like a command than an invitation. Emma forced a shaky laugh, trying to keep her voice steady. "I think I should call for help. My friend's expecting me." The man stepped closer, blocking the only exit, his face partially hidden in shadow. "No one's coming here. Not tonight." Emma's mind raced. She needed to find a way out. Her eyes darted to a window in the corner, its glass cracked but still intact. She took a step toward it, but the man moved faster, his hand gripping her arm with surprising strength. In that moment, Emma realized this wasn't about kindness at all. She had walked straight into a trap. The sound of the lock clicking shut behind her sent a cold wave of fear down her spine. Whatever this place was, she knew she had to escape before it was too late. Rain lashed against the hut as Anna's trembling hands tightened around the old man's lantern. The flickering light revealed everything she had feared. The hut wasn't just a shelter, it was a cage. Against the walls were chains, stained clothes, and photographs of young women, all of them with terrified eyes. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear his slow footsteps approaching from behind. "You shouldn't have wandered here." His voice was low, almost a growl. Anna's mind raced. There was no way out except the single creaky door. In a surge of desperation, she smashed the lantern to the ground, plunging the room into darkness and filling it with smoke. The man shouted, stumbling over the debris, and she bolted toward the door, forcing it open with all her strength. The storm outside hit her face like ice, but she didn't stop running until she reached the road, waving wildly at the headlights of an approaching truck. The driver pulled her inside, and as they sped away, Anna looked back just once. Through the sheets of rain, she could see the man standing at the edge of the hut's porch, unmoving, watching her. In his hand, he still held the broken chain. The police later told her the place had been abandoned for years, its owner long gone. Yet no one could explain the footprints found fresh in the mud that night. Anna never drove that road again, but sometimes, on stormy nights, she swore she could hear a voice behind her whisper, "You shouldn't have wandered here." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Subscribe to Human Fables for more real, powerful, and unforgettable stories.